and he should be allowed to make choices that he believes is best for the people and not constantly give in. I understand there's a give and take, but there has to be a point where someone puts their foot down and says, no, not happening.
All right, you want to know, Felix?
Yeah.
During the fiscal crisis, the stimulus package, all right, Paul Krugman, who won a Nobel Prize for economics, who happens to be my boy as far as economic theory is concerned, said that the government should have overextended itself and given much more, okay, in concessions to the people to start the economy going again. He said we should have spent at least $1 trillion. And the Republicans said there's no way that they're going to vote for anything that even approaches $1 trillion. And there were a few Democrats in there, too, from purple states that said that it would be hard getting the people to agree with that. So they settled on like $800 and something billion, or $600 and something billion that they did to spur the banking industry, homes, okay, Wall Street.
Did Obama ask for the $1 trillion?
What?
Did Obama ask for the $1 trillion?
He knew he couldn't get it.
But did he ask for it?
Senators were telling him, don't ask for it. But, you know, that's the thing. You have economists that are telling you that if you really want to get things going, you have to spend money. Listen, we all know that the reason, other than making great investments, the reason Warren Buffett is so successful is because he has the money to invest. You have to have money to make money. It's always been that way, and it always will be that way.
The government.
Your cousin is a good example of that.
No, but the government is not a profit-making organization. We're
not talking about profit here. We're talking about spurring industry. That's why the recovery is so slow.
I think that the government, instead of bailing out those banks, I think they should have bailed out some of the small businesses and some of the people. That would
I agree, because you see, in the stimulus package,
the people that had, bad loans, or the small businesses that were trying to move forward, and instead they bailed out these monster banks. And what have the people seen from it? Nothing.
Well, you see, originally the stimulus package, the banks were supposed to loan that money out. They were supposed to loan it out to small businesses. They were supposed to loan it out to construction companies for building new homes. And what they did was they tightened their belt. They held on to the money rather than put it out again into circulation. I mean, when people originally heard $670-something million being spent to on a stimulus package, billions, for the stimulus package, all of a sudden everybody started to say, figure out how many taxpayers there are in this country. Okay, 18 years and older.
No.
Divide that into the stimulus money, and instead of giving it to the banks, give it to the people, because what the people would do is pay off their mortgages, buy a car or two. They wouldn't put it in the bank. They would turn that money over and put it back into circulation.
That's what you would think. You don't know.
That's exactly what I said back then. This is Charlie. How are you?
Hi.
Anyway, that's exactly what we always said from day one. Why bail out the banks? Because they're just going to put it in their pocket. Why not bail out the people that had the bad mortgages, the people that were upside down on their homes, people being foreclosed on? Pay those people, let them pay off their mortgages. The banks are still going to get their money, and there's still going to be money put back in circulation.
That's right. And let's face it, who loaned out that money for those bad mortgages in the first place? The banks did. They kept,
Absolutely.
You go to a bank and you tell them you want to buy a house, and here's what you have to put down. And they tell you, oh, we have a perfect plan for you, not telling them that within 5 years you're going to have to pay a balloon payment, okay? But it gets you into a house, all right? The bank, meanwhile, is investing and raking in the profits, okay? And who suffers in the end? Somebody who has to let go of their home and go into foreclosure because they can't afford it anymore. They can't make the payments, all right? The banks basically lied to them.
Hey, Charlie, I got a question.
Absolutely, they lied to them. And the banks knew when they made these loans that nobody was going to be able to make a balloon payment at the end of, 3 or 5 years. They knew they weren't going to be able to make a $70,000 balloon payment.
That's true.
Let me ask, Charlie, you got a calculator there?
Yeah.
Do a 680 billion divided by 150 million. Let's see how much that comes out to.
God. Oh, what is it? 600?
Cross out a bunch of zeros to begin with.
600 what?
80 billion divided by 180 million or 150 million.
Enough zeros on it.
Do we have to remove zeros from both ends? I got to figure that out. Tell your wife, she's smart. How many zeros do we have to remove from both ends?
Zeros we have to remove from that.
I don't know.
No, it's enterprise rental cost.
Marc is figuring it out.
Okay.
180 million, you said?
Yeah. So eliminate the same amount of zeros from both ends. So then you can put it in the calculator where it's easy to do.
All right, so it winds up being 680,000 divided by 180.
680,000
divided by 180.
180.
Mm-hmm.
3.77.
Can't be 3.
Hello?
Yeah.
What was it?
So what's it, about 37,000, about $37,000 a piece?
Per family.
Yeah.
No, that's a person.
No, I did 150 million.
Yeah, that's per person. That's not per family.
That's a person.
You know, I'm just talking about people that have mortgages or
we have
upside down, you know,
300 million
bad
people in the United
investments,
States.
you know, whatever the case may be. I'm not talking about per person. You know, you can never figure out how many people, how many homes.
No, you were
We don't
talking
have that
about
data.
the 180 million should be taxpayers. Not heads of households, taxpayers. So let's assume that takes in a husband and a wife. Okay? So that simply means roughly $75,000.
How you figure
for
that
the
out?
two of them. Because each
No,
tax-paying
no.
person gets 37,000.
But that's for 150,000 people only.
180
Yeah,
million.
no, we're going off of bad numbers, okay? Because we're saying there's a certain amount of people that pay taxes, but not all of those are, you know, going to benefit from what we're talking about. Because
That's not fair.
some of them are going to be, you know, 18, 19-year-old kids, they don't have a mortgage, or they didn't have a bad mortgage. I'm talking about bailing out the people that had bad mortgages and bad car loans and things that the banks did to actually screw them. I'm not talking about bailing out the whole country.
What I was figuring was that there were 180 million tax-paying people. Okay, so therefore each one would get roughly $37,700, which means that a family, a husband and a wife, would get $75,000. Well, that's enough for them. That's enough for them to catch up on their mortgage. It's enough for them to buy a moderate car or pay off the cars that they have. Okay, and chances are they would invest some of the money, you know, for their children if they have any or whatever. But the thing is, that money would be turned back into the system. They're not going to hold.
No, and I agree with that the money would go back into the system. But I just don't believe that, you know, I think it should just be people that had bad mortgages, people that were in foreclosure, people that were facing these bad loans. Those are the ones that should be getting because $75,000 does absolutely squat these days. I don't give a shit.
Well, except for one thing.
You give me $75,000, it does nothing for my lifestyle.
Except for one thing. If these people were 6 months in arrears, okay, and let's say...
Yeah, but that doesn't...
And let's say
you have to rewrite those mortgages also. Not only just give them the $75,000, but then the banks would have to rewrite those mortgages to make them realistic.
Well, what they would do
and take away the balloon payment and the 15.9% interest.
Charlie, what they would do is take the 6 months in arrears, and let's say it's $3,000 a month.
Well, for most of the United States, that's high.
Let's say
very high for the United States on average.
Well, we're talking about people who got blindsided.
Let's just go with, let's keep it at $2,000 a month for a round number. For 6 months, it's $12,000.
So it's $12,000. Take $12,000 away from the $75,000, leave $63,000, and now they're caught up. Okay, they're just caught up. Now the bank rewrites their mortgage. Okay.
Well, that's a different rewrite it.
Now the bank rewrites their mortgage, properly to reflect what their payments should be. All right, but they've already put back $12,000 into the system. Multiply that by
The problem is, Mark, it goes back. The banks are not going to rewrite these mortgages because most of these people didn't qualify for mortgages. So
that should have been part of the stipulation when they did the bailout.
That's right. The bank wouldn't have a leg to stand on because the banks were the one that granted them that mortgage. The bank should have told them from the onset that they didn't qualify, but they didn't.
What about the banks that went belly up and then left those people...
Yeah, and what about the banks that went belly up and left those people in limbo? That's another thing.
Very, very true. Those people may wind up ahead of everybody. You know why? Because if the banks don't have paperwork, if they can't prove that this person is in arrears for a certain amount of money, you know what the next step is? They give them their house free. Absolutely.
That's true, but how often does that happen to the common person? The bank will always find a way to swindle around that because they have the politicians in their pocket.
Well, either way, we all know the system was never made for the ordinary person.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a little country northeast of us called Iceland, and they went through the same thing, but much worse than the United States. The only difference is they let everything fall apart. They let the banks fail. They didn't do anything, and the country recovered much faster than the United States did, and the country's much stronger now.
So let me ask you a question. So we went through this whole thing with the debacle with the banks and everything. How are we still giving money to, Afghanistan, Iraq? Where are we getting that money from? What are we borrowing that money from China?
Exactly.
To give to Afghanistan so that way we can pay it in the long run?
Exactly. It's idiotic. I mean, that's where the Republicans are right. You got to cut down the deficit. You got to stop borrowing. You can't
I agree with that, but you've also got to stop. I mean, welfare was never meant for, people to be on welfare for their whole lives. It was meant as a bailout program, supplement income, so that way you could, maybe get
back
a job,
on your feet.
And what ended up happening? You got places like Left Rack City, people living there their whole lives on, welfare. Where does that money come from? If I paid taxes and I made money, that would come out of my pocket, but I don't make any money, so I don't pay taxes.